Well, hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Beyonce's side of the internet. I'm Sharonda, and I'll be talking about a book today. And that book will be Do Not Fall in Love by Jackie Lau. Um, yeah, I know always I will put a cover of an image of the book somewhere in here. But yeah, this is the book. I'm trying to get it to show where you can actually the um, see the cover like really well, but it ain't working. But so let's get into this thing, shall we? All right. So in this book, we have Ryan Kwok and Lindsay. Oh yeah, Lindsay McLeod, who meet when Ryan, who is the actor, needs to. Well, first he accidentally like bumps into her or whatever, but then he needs her help because he is going to be a contestant on the baking show, and guess what? Lindsay owns a baking shop. Okay, so this is how these two meet. The whole fall in love thing, like that. So this is a really good book. I really enjoyed it. I loved the thing that I really like about Jackie Lau's books is how she just kind of like inputs her experiences or experiences she may or may not have had inside of her books. So Ryan is I think he's Korean. Damn it, I think he's Korean, and he's Korean. Um, Both of these folks live in Canada, but most of her books are set in Canada because I do believe she lives in Canada. So yeah, and Lindsay is she's biracial. She's half white and half Chinese. Her mom is Chinese. Her dad is white. Like, why was that hard to figure out? But anyway, I really love how she talks about issues inside of her book, and in this book, she touches upon a lot of things. For one, Ryan is still dealing with the loss of his mom. He has taken some time off of acting um, to to deal with that, but to also to keep to support his family, his dad and his sister, mainly. His sister was 5 months pregnant when their mom passed, and she has now had a baby, so she's struggling. And then there's this relationship that he has with his father, this difficult relationship that he has with his father. His father was one of those dads. He was there in their lives, but he wasn't, right, because their mother did everything, and this once the mother died, the father really didn't know how to handle this relationship um, between his kids. Like, he never went and saw Jenna, who's Ryan's sister, after she had the baby. Like, he saw her once in the hospital after she had the baby, and then that was it. So we had this man who didn't know how to handle his emotions, or talk to his kids, without the presence of his wife, who's no longer here, and hence this kind of like disconnect that he and Ryan are having. And it's not for Ryan's lack of trying. Ryan is trying, but again, his father was never the type of person to talk, about his emotions or anything like that. So it made it a really rough ride throughout the book for Ryan. And then he meets Lindsay, and it's easy for him to be with Lindsay. He makes her comfortable. He's able to talk about her. I mean, talk to her about what's going on in his life, as far as his relationship with his um with his dad and his sister. Even though him and Jenna aren't having any problems, it is hard for Ryan himself to know what to do, how to help his sister, because it's obvious inside of this book his sister is going through, postpartum, some aspects of postpartum depression. Because she's still mourning the loss of her mother, and then her mother isn't there to help her with her baby. You know what I mean? So, Ryan is trying to deal with all of this, and then, he meets Lindsay, and they have this relationship, which I really did enjoy. So let's talk about the romantic aspects of this book. Okay, I really did enjoy the romantic aspects of this book, and I'll go into lenses later because I know I kind of like veered off, but y'all know how I do. So I really loved the romantic aspects of this book. It was easy for Ryan and Lindsay to be together per se, right? But they both of them have their outside issues. Ryan dealing with his family, and Lindsay having a hard time. I think Lindsay's issue in this book was her um, managing friendships outside of the friendships that she already had. There's a part inside of the book where she's like her friend that she's been friends with since college has recently gotten married, and she moved on, and Lindsay had to move out of the apartment that they were sharing, and she moves into another apartment with another woman. You know what I mean? So she is trying to navigate how to have a friendship with her roommate. You know what I mean? And also Lindsay is dealing with, her mother. Their father passed. Lindsay's father passed away when she was like in her 20s, like when she, was in college and stuff like that. But she's, trying to navigate. Her mother has started dating. You know what I mean? So she's trying to navigate that, which isn't too much heavy on Paige. It was just the fact that her mother really didn't know. Her mother's an older woman that's going back into dating, and she really didn't know how to like it's different with with different generations and stuff like that. So she's dealing with that and stuff like that. But the relationship between Ryan and Lindsay was cute. I really did enjoy, like, they kind of like banter. They had really easy banter on page, them being together, and then with them discussing the how they grew up, um, in Toronto, with Ryan's relationship with his dad, and her relationship with her parents and stuff like that. So it kind of made it easy for them to like talk to one another, and it kind of made it easy, especially with him going to her shop where she was giving him these classes every Monday. You know that it was just easy for this romance to bloom before between them. You know what I mean? But it was really cute. Ryan was a really easygoing character, and so was Lindsay. But for me, what makes Jackie's book really, really enjoyable is like her discussions on how Asians, how they deal with the typical, not the typical, but how they deal with like the stereotypes, that are put upon them. Um, and we get a lot of those conversations inside of this book. Like I love there's one conversation inside. It's just like two different conversations. So we get it where, like I said, Lindsay's mom is dating, right? And her mom always dated white men. Her husband was white, right? But when she first started dating, she started dating white men again. But now the guy that she like decided to have a relationship with was Chinese, and Lindsay and the brother is like, well, wait a minute. But Lindsay has, it's not like a heavy discussion on page, but she says that her mother had to, her mother never really dealt with her own internalized racism because growing up, her mother growing up had to deal with so much racism, so it made her not like her Asianness. So she always had relationships with white men and stuff like that. So, and then there was on the opposite side of that conversation was not the opposite, but kind of like on the same side of the stone coin, same side of the stone. Well, I guess we could say that, but but excuse the dog, she tripping. Um, but she, she also has a conversation where one of Ryan's co-stars, who he's currently filming with, another Asian woman, is saying that because of her uh, preference to date a white man, now she's like a traitor, to her race because she's not dating an Asian man. And I kind of like that's kind of like the discussion like a lot of black women have too, like when they decide to date outside of black men, you know. And I don't know if it's particularly like, you know mainly Asian men that would tell Asian women like you know we don't support Asian men, you know, you know what I'm saying, while they white women or women outside, you know where I'm going with this conversation, but it's kind of like familiar with that, where black women are also being told, like when they decide to date outside their race, how they're like a traitor to their race, and they don't support, the black community or black men because they decided to, to date outside of black men. It's kind of like, there, and I kind of like that she inserted that on page, because it is kind of like sometimes when you're looking in on another, race or ethnicity or whatever, you do kind of like have these kind of like preconceived stereotypes and notions, whatever. So it's always good when a author has these conversations on page. You know what I mean? And it makes you understand a little bit more, like, oh, okay, and it's not like, because I think, um, for me, you know, as a black woman, I feel like, other women of color do go through this, especially, with men of their race and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily always think that's like, a black person's thing. You know what I mean? Although it may be talked more heavily about. You know what I mean? So, but I do appreciate when other authors of colors put shit down on page, like, like, yeah, this shit goes on over here too. It ain't no singular goddamn, race dealing with this. Like, we deal with this shit too. So it was good to see that on page. And it was, and as far as like Ryan, dealing with his dad and his dad's, you know him and his this relationship that him and his dad was having. um but I think that's like most older men in general. They just don't know how to talk to their kids because it was always the mother in the house doing stuff. You know what I mean? It was the mother raising the kids. You know, the mother talking to the kids, just doing everything. They never had their hands in anything. You know what I mean? So it was good to see like a development on page of this relationship between Ryan and his dad, and Ryan just trying to figure out, like, I don't even know what to do with this old ass man. Like, I'm trying, and he ain't even trying. Like, he would be calling his father wouldn't answer the goddamn phone, but his father figured out how to use Twitter, and his father's grief and his father's because they do have a conversation towards the end of the book, and his father was telling him these things like, I don't know how to deal with y'all now because your mother always did all that shit. I ain't never had to do nothing, so I don't know what to do without her. She's not here, so what do I do? And his father got popular on Twitter by, basically talking to Ryan through Twitter, and Ryan felt some aspects of that was funny, but he was just like, okay, but I'm calling you, you ain't answering the phone, like, what you doing? So there's a conversation between Ryan and his dad, is just like, I don't know what to do, and it was finally good to see that there was kind of like a resolution on page, not kind of like, but a resolution on page of this relationship between him and his dad, because it was a big part of the story, and Ryan's uh, his overlapping, it overlapped into the relationship with him and Lindsay. And Lindsay, even though I don't talk much about her here, um, and it's not that she didn't have her own issues, because she had these expectations, because her family was, they were used to saying like, I love yous, and things like that. So she expected things. I feel like she did expect things from Ryan, even though she understood where Ryan was coming from, and she knew that Ryan was having like a hard time, voicing his emotions and stuff like that. Certain aspects of his emotions, like I think he showed her in this book that he loved her, but because he didn't say it, she just was just like, no, I need for you to say it. But he didn't know how to say it, because I'm quite sure their mom, Jenna and Ryan's mom, always said it to him, but he didn't, like, as far as like a romantic type of love, you know what I mean? He didn't know how to say it, and he didn't have anyone to go to and talk about that with. Like, he had his friends and stuff like that, but it was just like, he really didn't know what to do when it came to like once Lindsay told him that she loved him, he was like, oh, yeah, like, I love her too, but I don't even know how to I don't even know how to say it back, you know what I'm saying? But it was good to see a resolution on Paige. Like they both kind of like Lindsay, like they decided, like they were like, even they weren't together, like when they did decide to have a relationship, they weren't together for a long time. But it was good that it was they like like this whole Twitter, when actors work together on Page, the rumors start, oh, are they sleeping together, da da da. So that kind of situation goes on. And Lindsay, I feel like she did feel like a little bit insecure, like she didn't know how to handle, like, that aspects of Ryan's relationship, which she did tell him. And because he didn't know how to, um, I guess, I won't say, like, I feel like because he didn't know how to, like, tell her, like, or tell her that he loved her in words, or to try to, like, make her feel better about, or not worrying about him, like, sleeping with his co-actresses or anything like that, you know what I mean? They decided to take a break. But it was good to see that they both were just like, I know, she expects something from me and I should be returning that. And she was like, I know, like, I know, Mimi, stop. Anyway, it's like, I know. And she, it was like they both knew, stop, Mimi. They both knew, like, aspects of what was going on with each other. So I like that Jackie Lau, like the author, didn't make it like just coming back together between them all difficult. It was just like they didn't see each other for a couple of weeks. They were both kind of like moping around. They were both talking to their friends, and their friends was just like, y'all need to come up out this shit, like figure something out. And they figured it out, with a, and we do get our happily, ever after, with this book, with this story. But yeah, this is a Jackie Lau's stand account, because I just feel like she she does a good job of writing from her perspective, about her, Asian people, and not, and just having the conversations about the stereotypes. There's the whole thing, like Ryan has a friend inside of this book, Mel, and Mel is saying, like, how he's a comedian, and it's just like, that whole thing of like, like he was, nobody expects for them to be like, they supposed to be like extra smart and good in math and shit like that. So she has these conversations on Page, and it's also the conversation on Page with Ryan being an actor, and how Asian actors have to deal with stereotypes as well when they go inside the movie industry. How he was, how he had to take certain roles, you know what I mean? But now that, he was getting to be a little bit well known and stuff like that, but he was getting tired of, of his, of being sent certain scripts because, he's Asian. And it's just like, why, that she has all these conversations inside of this book, and it's really good, to see that she does. But I've read her work previously, and she always has these type of conversations, especially with mental illness and stuff like that. Because him and Ryan and his dad also has have the conversation about, about his dad, going to see a therapist and talk about dealing with the loss of his wife, and how to deal with the relationship with his kids now his wife is no longer, there. So I really did enjoy this book. It was a truly really good book. I loved it. When I come to Canada one day, Miss Jackie Lau, you're gonna have to take me out to these restaurants that you be talking about, or you're gonna have to cook me a donut or something, because I was very hungry reading this book. Okay, that's another good thing she be having going on inside her book, y'all. The food. I be hungry reading her books. I be so hungry. But yeah, so this is a really good book. I really really enjoyed it. Y'all should definitely try it out. And if you haven't read any of her books, you should definitely put her on your reading list, because she's really good. Um, what book of hers would I recommend? She has Kwan, I think it's Kwan Family Series. Me and my podcast mate did reviews on that series on our podcast, Brazen Bait Reviews, and it's just like her whole thing with these books. She talks about family and how, you know, like I love the family, and I love the family inside of the families inside of this book. Like Lindsay's mom reminded me of some of the moms that I read inside of her previous book. Very pushy, in a good way. Very pushy. Just like, come on, you let's go eat. You're going through something. Let's go eat. You gotta get out of the house. Shit like that. Let's go. Things like that. So really good book. Check it out. Okay, this is Do Not Fall in Love by Jackie Lau. Um, she has a lot of indie published books, but this is mainstream published through Berkeley, which I requested because this is a Jackie Lau Stan account. So yes, check it out. Um, until the next one, later days. Bye. Where the hell is? Why can't I ever find that damn thing?